a pillow last night, reloading your messages, or making eye contact with your fridge instead of a Valentine, it's okay. You weren't alone. We're here to make up for that missing Valentine's. So sit back, relax, and let Pulse of Polynesia be your date tonight. This is where we bring inspiring Polynesian voices from all walks of life to share their stories, laughter, wisdom, and unforgettable journeys. I am Leaso Filoyali'i coming to you live from Katy, Texas.
And Talofa, I'm Lena Famuina, coming to you from the beautiful state of Hawaii. So before we get into the weeds of things, we'd like to thank our team for ensuring everything runs smoothly. We have Eileen Tiumalu monitoring Facebook and Fuifui Petelo monitoring YouTube. We'd also like to thank everyone for tuning in and supporting the cause to bring our people together and get the pulse of Polynesia. Please use this opportunity to ask those burning questions that you'd like to know, but also please remember to keep it respectful. Just wanted to give everyone a heads up. I'm reading comments via text messages and screenshots, so I'll be multitasking and looking off screen here and there, but I'm definitely paying attention.
And tonight we have an amazing guest in the hot seat, a proud Tafuna High School graduate, class of 1995. She's known for her warm heart, incredible strength, and passion for faith, family, and food. Tonight we are honored to welcome Julia Vaoita. What's up, Julia?
What's up? Yes, warm greetings from American Samoa. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
How have you been, Julia? It's been a long time since we last seen each other. What have you been up to?
Oh gosh, life in general, just a whole lots of things. Yeah, I don't know where to begin, but I'm just excited that to be a part of this conversation, and I'm really looking forward to sharing my story with those that are listening right now, and uh, I'm just thankful to be here. Thank you.
Well, we really do appreciate you being on the podcast tonight. So let's get started with after graduation, life takes us to all kinds of journey, right? So where did your path lead you? What did it look like after high school? Did you already know what you wanted to do?
Um, so yes, I did. But before I dive in, I just want to take this moment just to express my deep gratitude to our loving Heavenly Father for just bringing us here all together, just granting us, strength and a growth mindset.
Mhm.
I'm especially proud of you, Leaso, and your team for developing such a platform, Pulse of Polynesia. It's very on brand. I can totally see the merch soon coming. Um, I do want to just say that I'm very just just grateful that I'm a part of these discussions. It's very crucial right now at this time, to be able to share, especially our generation of our stories of past, and hopefully that might be, helpful to somebody that's struggling right now at this time. And my intention for tonight is just to be able to be open and willing, and just be vulnerable, to be true to
Mhm.
myself.
Yeah.
And I pray for the Holy Ghost to guide my words at this time. Um, but yes, going back to your question, um, I want to quote this beautiful saying. It goes something like, life is not measured by time, the time is measured by moments.
Mm.
Some big, but most are small, significant moments. And what I would add to that is that these moments, they're etched in our hearts and our psyche for a long time. And for me, returning back to American Samoa, where it all started, I feel like I have that, 360 full circle moment.
Mhm.
And so I'm so grateful just to be back home. But after high school, I was on the pursuit of going to college. That was something that I didn't have a choice really in terms of what school that I would be able to go to. Um, Being the third, middle child of five, my dad and my mom was very kind of domineering when it came to what would happen in terms of where I would go. And so I even got a scholarship to go to ACC, but my dad was like, no, that's like another high school. I don't want you going there. So I applied to colleges like in California, Colorado, and New Mexico, as well as in Hawaii. And one of the schools in Hawaii was BYU Hawaii. And because it was a church school, Church of Jesus
Mhm.
Christ of Latter day Saints, my dad felt it was important that I go there just so that he can kind of keep on tabs with me, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
And so, I had no say on that, but I was just grateful, like, okay, you're going to pay for it. Part of it, I had an academic scholarship, but the other part, it was going to, I would have to take out loans, which I didn't have to. My dad was willing to support me in
Wow.
that regard. And so, but yeah, I just kind of took it to the chin, and, I was just counting the days until I finally did depart. And so I spent the next 4 years being there at BYU Hawaii in Laie. And
Yes.
I'm no stranger to Hawaii, but it was definitely like a culture shock.
Okay, so I get with the culture shock, right? Because it's so different from us being in Samoa, and then we coming to a different place where, yeah, we know Hawaii, right? But just a different environment. What was it about it that made it a culture shock other than that?
It was more so just they had this standard code that you had to sign, and you really had to be on your P's and Q's in terms of word of wisdom, which is no drinking, all of that stuff, and especially dress. I couldn't get away with sleeveless going to that school, and you can imagine somebody. I was 17 at the time when I did leave, and so having to go from like wearing like short shorts, crop top, to like having to really completely cover yourself, and then just making sure like, okay, I don't want to be a kid having to get sent back or what have you. I didn't want to become a cautionary tale, so I was very mindful of how I had to behave, going to a school like that, and it was definitely a journey.
While you were at BYU, what was your major? What did you major in at the college?
Sure, yeah. So I was always fascinated with marketing. When I was very young, as as young as 10 years old, I already knew that I wanted to be like a business executive. That was something that I kind
Hmm.
of like would say in front of the class. How the teachers would ask, like, what do you guys want to be when you grow up? And there was so many of them would say things like, doctor, lawyer, and whatnot. And I
Hmm.
guess I was just fascinated with the power suits. And so, but they didn't have a marketing a degree, a major in marketing. It was more like a prerequisite. If you, and so I kind of just coasted to see what classes that really would, you know, stay with me in that regard. And I always loved computers.
Hmm.
I did that when I was taking some classes at the college while in high school. And I'm a visual learner. So anything
Hmm.
that you can show me on a computer, like, sign me up. And so I really took that to heart to see if that was something that I could, uh, you know, uh, be a major, and it was. And so from then on, that was me being, very determined to just go through all of my GEs and
Was
ensuring
that your
that
first
I
time?
finish.
Was that your first time being out of Samoa to be on your own in Hawaii?
No, in
Mhm.
high school, I was actually, we had a couple of trips right before my freshman year. My dad gifted my sister and I a trip to San Diego, and that was the first time we actually went to the U.S. mainland. My sister had been in the States before, but this was my first time actually going there. So, to meet all my cousins in San Diego, I was like, oh, wow, this is really cool, and I resented my dad, like, why did you move us back to Samoa? I mean, you could have stayed here and, lived the dream. And he would tell
Mhm.
me, oh, it's too cold, And at first I totally get it, it was really
Mhm.
cold, coming from Samoa. Like, and then even though there was like no clouds in the sky, but it was like really like it was like in the 60s, and I would often have to wear like a shawl, um or a cardigan, I should say. But
Mhm.
yeah, um so sorry, going back to what you were saying, that I did actually participate in the close-up trip, which we actually went to New York and DC, which was a very coveted spot. Like, a lot of kids were like competing against that, and so to get that spot, it was like, a dream come true. So I was, yeah, fortunate enough to be part of that team that for that group of kids that went to learn about the U.S. government and to
Yeah.
see New York. And
Okay,
luckily
so
for me, I had a cousin that lived there, and I was able to see the sights, so it was really nice.
I have to ask you a question. All right, so like with all the things that you had to go through in college, being alone and stuff, were there some unexpected twists and turns while you were going through the 4 years of college?
Oh yeah, a lot of it is peer pressure. You know, at a Mormon school, you're faced with a lot of temptations. And they always say not to be judgmental with people that are struggling, but like for me, I just feel for I was like saying hello to everybody. That was just my kind of personality.
Mhm.
I didn't see their social status. It was more like their energy, their vibe, and if they're nice to me, I'm gonna be nice back to them.
Mhm.
Um, so yeah, a lot of it was peer pressure, trying to maintain this brave front of, you know, because part of going to BYU, you had to go to church,
Yes.
because you needed your bishop's endorsement to be able to re-enroll for the next semester. So it was almost like I had to play the part.
Yes,
Of the
just for
thing,
this. Yeah, I totally.
yeah. And it was almost like I was putting up like this, I was suffering from this disease to please.
Mhm.
And it was a learned behavior that I got from, learning as a young child and having to always have to be on my P's and Q's with my mom. She was very overbearing and, constantly micromanaging what it is that I did towards the latter part of high school.
Mhm.
And so, yeah, and being able to endure that, I think if you surround yourself with good people
Yes.
in college, it can be really a fun experience. And that's what I did. I was quick to make really good friends. I had a small circle of girlfriends, and a lot of us were Polynesians,
Mhm.
because when you're at BYU Hawaii, you're not a minority, you're actually a majority.
Yes.
The Falangis and the Asians are considered minorities. So it didn't really feel like it was all kind of isolated in that regard. Um, we had the best of both worlds. We had PCC on the other end. So if you got to dance, which I did get a chance to dance during the canoe show, that was fun. And so just being able to be a part of all of that experience, I think it just propelled me to be prepared for the next chapter in my life. Yeah.
So, speaking of the next chapter in your life, after the 4 years that you did in Hawaii at BYU, what was your next move?
So
Did
eight
you?
months before I was going to graduate, I had a hard time trying to find a job within Oahu.
Really?
And at the time, this is like early '99, so the internet is just kind of bubbling, if you
Yes.
will. There's not that many female IT professionals, even though that I worked the last 2 years for the on-campus computer support center. And my the manager that was overseeing that were a female. She was a woman, a Tahitian woman. And I was like, wow, this is so cool. And another manager within the same silo within the, she another female. And so I was like, what's going on though? You know what I mean? Like, do I have to have like 20 years just to get a job? It didn't make any sense. And so I had to kind of think bigger. And my brother was like, why don't you come here in San Diego? I'm here. Maybe you could find a job. And that's what I did. So I packed up a suitcase and my TV, which was one of those tube TVs where I still
Yes.
had the box. I just kind
Yeah.
of, it was like a 19-inch, because he didn't have a TV. And that's what I did. I just, and they didn't have direct flights from Honolulu to San Diego at that time. So I had to fly to LA, and then my brother had to come pick me up and drive
Wow.
down, which was a 2.5 hour drive. But the cool thing about that story is I had arrived that morning, like it was like a 5 a.m. flight that I arrived. I got to the paper because back then it was just the newspaper that you would look at, and I was cold calling, and I was able to get an interview at
Oh, wow.
like a temp agency, yeah, and I was able to find work same day, and that's a true story. Um,
Wow.
by 4 p.m. that day, it was just, you know, and I knew that Heavenly Father was on my side when I told him what I wanted, and you know what I mean, and it happened. And so as long as you do the necessary steps to getting, you can go as far as you can.
Mhm.
Leave God, yeah, let God do the rest. And I truly believe in that. And so, yeah, I was able to find work immediately
I was
within.
just gonna say, like, how did faith play a role in shaping your journey? And you just mentioned that
Yeah.
when it became very challenging for you, because I know, like, working a new job, just getting out of college, uh, did you ever felt like it was beginning to be impossible for you? And what did you do to change that?
Well, the good thing about going to school at a church college, like there's a lot of people like older than myself, you know, that started college later in life, and you meet so many different backgrounds, all ethnicities, not just Polynesians,
Yes.
but everywhere else. And so I was able to gauge in, you know, what did they do differently? So, you know what I mean? So instead of you having to reinvent the wheel, you just kind of piggyback off of what has been true and trying to, for them. And
Mhm.
I think that is important to remember that, you know, it's okay to ask for advice, especially from somebody that you respect. And there has been a lot of that in my incredible life, of how there's so many you know, I call them earthly angels. They come into your life and they make an impression,
Mm.
and it stays with you. And so you take that with you and you pay it forward. And so I think by surrounding yourself with quality people, that's a key takeaway, especially when you are at an impasse and you're not really sure what to do. And of course, you know, power of prayer always helps.
Sorry, you kind of got me emotional there. I had to hold some tears back.
It's okay. It's okay.
Yes, yes.
You said that we're going to be vulnerable.
Nice, yes. So that when you said you know, you were blessed when you got there the same day with the job, right? What uh, share your journey with us on how you got from there, and did you end up being able to be in marketing like you always wanted to, or how did the journey shape from there?
So, when I mentioned before about how my life has been a full circle moment, my life has always been circular, not linear. And so I always knew at some point that I would come back to marketing, but I didn't know how that was going to kind of happen. Um, so the job that I took was just a starter job. You know, I was just happy to make money. You know what I mean? I had this impending. I ended up taking a loan. I don't know why I did that, but it was just, you know, you get a credit card, and you're like, oh, what's this? You know, and so I wish they taught us credit, you know, work on
Yes.
your credit, yeah,
Mhm,
in
yes.
high school, or you know, sex education, all of that stuff. I wish they
Mhm.
had offered those kinds of courses in high school, but in any case, though, but yeah, no, I wanted to test the waters to see how things were in this fast-paced city, you know, big bad city, you know, and it was actually like interesting, and it was, you know, I was meeting people, but at the same time it wasn't satisfying, you know what I mean? I was working for Sprint, so it was a desk job. I wasn't being mobile, you know, call center, if you will. But you know, it was something that I needed at the time, and I didn't even last that long. I think I was only there for like a good 10 months, and then I found out that I was pregnant. Yeah, and you know, at 22, so this is me at 22 now, and I'm just like, I don't think I could work anymore because I don't know what's going on with my body. You know what I mean? So I'm just kind of rediscovering what's happening to myself, and so yeah, that puts me in a place where I'm questioning everything. You know, like, do I want this baby? It's gonna ruin my plans. All of that negative rhetoric that we often say to ourselves. Um, and so, my then husband, well, we weren't married at the time, but we dated from college, and that's how I met uh, met him at BYU Hawaii. And so it was one of those things where, he grew up in a Samoan, very Samoan family household, very Mormon household. And so, um, I was okay if we didn't have a baby, you know what I mean? But of course he was pressuring me into saying, no, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. And then I'm like, okay, well, I don't want to get married. And again, you get the trappings from your parents, right? They play a role in all of this. Their influence plays a part in that, mindset of, oh, yeah, well, just get married so that nobody has to talk about it. And so at 8 months pregnant, I was walking down the aisle and I was looking so like, yeah, not myself because I was very bloated and, my stomach was out to here.
It's not
And
what you imagine, right?
no, not at all. And it was very, disheartening for myself because when it comes to celebratory things, I like to be a part of the planning and what that would look like. And in this case, I wasn't any of that. And it was because I was kind of kicking against it. You know what I mean? I was not staying true to who I was, at the time. And I just felt like I was being overly influenced by others to make this kind of decision. So that's why it didn't work out.
Do you do you feel like after you decided to move forward with changing your plans of how us as like LDS members, how we were supposed to be portrayed as this LDS, married in the temple and everything? Um, Tell me about how you felt about that influencing your decisions, and what did you decide to do?
Yeah. So let me jump back to college. So towards the end part of college, like my junior, close to my senior year in college, everyone was getting married, and that's the thing. If you want to find a husband, ladies that are still single out there, you go to BYU Provo, or you go to BYU Hawaii because there's a lot of return missionaries, and you can get one of those, yeah, those kind of men if that's what if that's what you're into, though. But yeah, I was really set on not getting married until I was 30 because I wanted to build a career,
Mhm.
and that wasn't part of the path that I had in mind. But obviously, Heavenly Father had something larger in mind because he knew that I could handle being a mom at a very young age. And when I realized, when I look back at my, the female influences in my own life, like my mother,
Mhm.
she became a first time mom at 24. My sister became a first time mom at 20 or 19. And so 22 is not so, that's how I had to justify it. I had to kind of almost like convince myself like this is okay, I'm going to kind of have to do this. I'm going to need a lot of prayer and just to kind of to get me through, especially being pregnant and then not being able to have a vaginal birth because the baby was so big. I had to have a cesarean, so I'm getting surgery for the very first time of my entire life, and then having to endure that, and then now that the baby is here, you're like, okay, yeah, like he's cute and all. Shy, I love you so much, but yeah, but I was, in my mind, I wasn't, I wasn't. It almost felt like it was like an out of body experience, um, and I was living for somebody else. But you know, I guess the silver lining to that is that the partner that I was with, who then became my husband, he was very supportive. He was very emotionally immature for somebody who saw him one though too. Like it was very alarming, like that he was this way, but it made me feel safe, and it was almost like I kind of had to tuck into that safety net because
Mhm.
okay, even though that everything is happening in my head, like just struggling with that and then enduring postpartum depression.
Yes.
At the time I didn't realize what that was, but that's what I was feeling in that. I think it was like 2.5 years that I suffered that postpartum depression. And I wasn't seeking out any type of professional help. I was just kind of enduring it in silence. which I don't recommend anybody doing, because it can be very triggering, and it can be very toxic for your own mental health. So I encourage you to seek out somebody who's very professional, very mindful of how to kind of tap into those, 'cause it's all part of trauma though too.
Yes.
Seeing my mom, how she raised us, I didn't like that. I didn't like how she raised. I would often run away and go to my neighbor's, house, because there were more Afakasi and Palangi, so it was much more safer. They didn't discipline their kids with like random objects.
Yeah.
So
Julia, your mom is, are you Afghani? Is your dad a Palangi, or is it your dad?
Yeah. Sorry, my earbuds just kind of went out.
No. So your dad is Afghani, so but your household was raised more Samoan type, where
Well, I should say that my dad shielded us from all of the Fa'alavalava stuff and the Fa'asamoa, just because that um, when I was very little, they did the whole living with the extended family on communal property, and it just caused a lot of you know, tension and contention within him and my mom's relationship,
Mhm.
because when you have external forces, they often
Yes.
tend to, insert themselves when they don't need to. And so, yeah, but when we were younger, my mom is from Samoa, the other Samoa,
Yeah.
Upolu Samoa, from Falealili district, Malai Malu village, which is a good maybe like a almost 2 hour drive on the other side. Very beautiful. And so my mom would dump us there for the summers when we were kids. And so we learned like the Pasamoa stuff, you know what I mean? From like going to find food, which was be plucking, killing the chicken and plucking the feathers out. And they had a
Wow.
bobi too. And yeah, it was all of that. I got to experience that and go fishing. And it was such a, I wouldn't take anything for granted when it came to our summer trips to the other Samoa.
Wow.
But when you live in Ottoville, which that's where we lived,
Mhm.
that's where I was raised. It was like almost like a suburbia utopia. So when things were not, there was like a lot of strife and chaos in our household where my mom is yelling at the top of her lungs. And, it's like, we just want to relax, mom. It's a Saturday. I would often go to my neighbors, and I didn't, have to worry about any yelling or anything like that. But it was, that was part of my childhood experience. And that's what made it that much more magical and fun and that much more enjoyable.
Mhm.
Um, and I think as kids, we need that, uh, that space hold space for kids to allow them to be
Yes.
free and wild and to discover and learn and explore. If we try to like contain that, then you're gonna get somebody who's rebellious and fia poco. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
allow our kids to be able to thrive and just be able just be a nurturer. And
Mhm.
so
So Julia,
so
sorry, do you find yourself sometimes taking some of the traits of your mother within your own
oh,
family?
absolutely.
Mhm.
Oh, absolutely. um I attribute everything to my mom in terms of the sacrifices that she made for us. She was a stay-at-home mom for all of us. So there's 5 kids, you can imagine. Um, I'm the middle, and then I have 2 younger brothers. And so I want to say like over 20 years, she was a stay-at-home mom, and then finally she decided to go back and pursue her own, degree, and she became a family consumer science teacher at Leone High. She did it for 10 years, and there's a lot of folks that would come up to me and say, "I remember your mom. She was the best." And anytime I wanted to eat, I would,
Mhm.
just have to just go to her class, and yeah. So So the fact that I'm artisanal entrepreneur where I make things from scratch with my hands, I attribute that for my mom.
Wow.
Um, you know, there's this power of discernment where it's all in all of us. Sometimes you have to tap that into by saying a prayer so that you can be able to judge people, just based off, what they do. And so oftentimes with that power of discernment, you can use that to your advantage when you can sense like bad energy, or you know what I mean? Like, oh, maybe something is happening with your life, so that's why they're projecting, right? And so so yeah, that's all. Like, I have my mom's side, and she comes from a long list of strong women, very resilient, very faith, uh, like building women. Yeah, you know that they mean well,
Mm-hmm.
um, and I'm so appreciative of that. And of course, my beautiful smiles from my
Julia,
mom too.
we
Go
have a
ahead.
bunch of comments online. If you don't mind, I'll read them out. One is from
Yeah, sure.
June, who says, "So beautiful. Put Heavenly Father's hand in your circular journey. I'm so proud of you, sis." One is
Oh, love you, June.
from one is from AT. It says, had the experience of working with your mom at Votech. She was a stern woman and always put everyone and always went to everyone. People had to walk on eggshells not to piss her off. I remember she cussed out a sped student and his teacher because the kid kept banging on her classroom door on the second floor. I was cool with her because she knew my dad, who was from Upolu. She was always dressed up in makeup, beautiful and strong too. June says, our dad is Manua
Thank
born
you
and
for
raised
that.
in Tutuila, but half Palangi, but he spoke Samoan fluently. AT said, yeah, Julia's mom was of the generation who didn't take crap from anyone, not even the principal. And
Yeah.
then the last comment is June says, Salai Valu Laru Onosemo taught home ec or family consumer science in Leonge and then in Nuuli Kotek. And yes, even I walked on eggshells with her, fierce, strong spoken lady.
Yeah, she was somebody that you do not want to cross or be
Oh.
on her shit list. So,
Julia, what was the hardest part about losing her, and how did you navigate the grief?
so the year that she passed was in 2022, and we were in the thick of pandemic here in American Samoa, and I was 7 months pregnant with my daughter at the time. And the week that she passed, I was actually leaving on a flight. Um, and we weren't sure if the governor was going to stop flights altogether. So I didn't want to take a chance of not being able to go off island simply because of my medical history of having cesareans, so
Right.
I needed to get off the rock. Um, but there was a time when, in her last hours, my brother had called us to say that I think mom is turning for the worse. You have to come now. And so when I sat with her during those hours of, talking to her, um, even though that my mom wasn't like physically present, but just her heavy breathing, being able to see her, knowing that she was in me as well as probably staring at us, that at me, looking at her physical body. It was almost as if like you know I I, ex- I expressed to her candidly that all the things that I wanted to say to her, and
Oh,
that kind of helped me, yeah, to have the courage to be able to go on this journey of having a baby, and being completely away from my family here, and having to kind of navigate, um, because I was planning to go have baby in Vegas, so I was going to be spending like the next 6 months there. And luckily for me, one of my best friends from high school, she's a ride or die, Iris. I hope you're watching. But yeah, I was able to stay with her and her family during this time frame, and so that kind of helped me um, during that time of grieving. There were so many nights of where I would have vivid dreams of my mom, as if she like visited me, saying, you know, all the things that I wish she would have said when she was alive, and she was able to say the, you know, the things that I've always wanted her to hear her say. You know, like, I love you, Julia, you're the best. You know, like those are some of the things I would hope that she would say, but she never did. But yeah, but
But
and
you know
along
she's
those lines,
okay.
along those lines, yeah. But you know, or apologize, you know. But yeah, I was able to see that in my dreams, and I remember writing out a letter to her, like a love letter to her, of what I
Wow.
would say had I had the opportunity to be able to speak at her funeral, because I missed it because I had to come off island. But yeah, I often see my mom in nature, you know, when I could be somewhere where it's peaceful and tranquil. Um, and there's like this overwhelming feeling of serenity that comes over me. And I'll see something like a white dove, or just, you know, a bird that you don't necessarily don't ever see here in Ireland, and you know, and they're making eye contact to you, and then, you know, I know that that's my mom in animal form. Um, there's a there's one experience where I had where I was going to culinary school abroad in Italy, and I was feeling really just feeling homesick. And if you know what a Bichon dog is, it's like those little cute little white dogs. It's like really fluffy. Anyways, I was sitting there feeling down, and this dog just kind of approached me, and it almost seemed like it knew that I just needed to, you know, to hug it out. You know what I mean? Because there was nobody around me, and so I just knew that that was my mom in some kind of way. And then all of a sudden, the dog kind of like went to their owners, and yeah, it helped me prepare for what was coming in the new week of my studies being there. So,
Wow.
yeah, my mom is everywhere, and she's in me as well. So, yeah, and I don't
Julia,
think grieving ever stops. Yeah.
you mentioned that you wrote a letter. But if she were here today, what's one thing you would want to tell her?
I love you, mom, with all my heart. I know that you are proud of me in everything that I've done, despite some of my shortcomings that you don't agree with. I know that you mean well when you say it, and it's okay, mom. It's gonna be okay. Someday we'll be together, and I just want you to look out for me as well as your grandchildren. I'll see you in my dreams.
That is beautiful, Julia. And I'm going to switch gears because I don't want to get emotional because I haven't talked to my mom in years. So, uh,
Oh, let me read a
Okay.
comment before you start. Sorry, before you
go
go on.
ahead.
Give you a moment.
You should call your
So
mom.
At
You should just call your
says,
mom.
JT says, I was in the same grade with your brother Julius at Lupilele. I remember them every
Oh,
siblings
yay.
at Lupilele and church functions. When I
Yes,
asked your
Lupalele.
mom, when I asked your mom while she was at Voltech about how her kids were, she smiled and said proudly how everyone was doing. Sincere condolences. Your mom made sure everyone knew she was at Voltech. She would be banging pots and pans in her classroom. LOL.
That sounds like her.
When she was mad at Voltech.
I love it. Thank you for that comment. I appreciate that. Yes.
Julia, you mentioned culinary arts school. How did you get from marketing to culinary arts? And you have mentioned food is a part of your love.
Yes.
Tell us about that.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So this will be my fourth wind
Yay.
uh, in terms of career path. My first was working in an IT capacity. I was actually able to get a job. Sorry, in terms of the story time. I was after I had baby number one. I was able to get a position at an aerospace company, and I worked there for 13 years. So I was able to kind of move in different departments. And so the first 7 years I was in the IT realm. And then I decided to take a turn into, I want to do business ops, learn, like maybe kind of have that bridge between operations and support, and there was an opportunity to be a part of that. And so I went back to get my master's, my MBA. And so I did that. And then I was able to land the dream job that I always wanted. That little kid that said business executive, at 10 years old, I was able to live that dream job, which was a business advisor, allowed me to travel in all parts for the company. And that was, and just be able to, train and mentor and advise professionals as well in their field, engineers, that is. And then returning back to Samoa, my plan was to always open up a business here, but I had to pivot. And that was only because, well, at first I wanted to do the business, and then our housing situation didn't kind of work out after when we had gotten married and returned from our honeymoon that same year. So now we're going into early 2014. And so I put my resume out to the Chamber of Commerce because I knew that I wanted to kind of work in the private sector area. My husband wanted to stay, ASG realm, and that was okay, and so I got the people that did reach out was Blue Sky. So I was doing project management work for Blue Sky for 3.5 years, and then there was an opportunity to lateral move, that is, to go into marketing. So I ended up being in marketing. It all worked out.
Yes, yes.
I did 3 years in marketing. I did product development, and we did so many launches. Such a good experience, just to kind of get the lay of the land. Um, and so culinary school was something that was always part of my creative outlet. Because when you're in these office jobs, your mind and your thought process always turns to mush when you get home. And so to be able to, be a little bit creative in the kitchen, that was home for me. That was, a fun space to do. And so I liked it, enough. I started baking and learning how to cook as early as 8 because of my mom. And um, so like I said before, how she's always a part of me. Um, when I had lost her and after having baby the same year, which was 2022, I decided that I wanted to really be serious about pursuing this next phase, which was, okay, if I wanted to launch a business, what would that look like? Well, I love the idea of a cafe, morning rush hour, getting that coffee. I don't know if you guys are coffee drinkers, but I am now. I love coffee. I love a I love a cappuccino and a croissant, and it's one of and you learn about that and experience that when you're overseas. When you're traveling, and just that feeling that you get. And so I started working for a local cafe here on island. Just I wanted to be a barista, teach me. Like I said, I'm a visual learner, so I wanted to learn all things about how to make great coffee from an espresso machine. They had baked goods, but they didn't have croissants. But I was able to be a part of her business acumen, from how they prepare her product that are bought and sold at stores. I was part of her catering team, and I learned all parts of her. She wanted me a part of her social media, so I did a little bit of that for her. And then dinner service was something that we wanted to kind of try to, really capitalize on exposing her business. Maybe it'll make more money in that regard. It didn't last long because she was more fearful of the outcome. And so I knew things were changing. You know what I mean? You get that feeling in the pit of your stomach, like, okay, I see the writings on the wall. I get where this is going. This is not going to be forever. I don't know if I want to do this another year. And that's when I started to kind of do my research. Search, ponder, and pray about. Well, I want to learn how to make a croissant, and so that's when I started looking at schools. I love Italian food. I mean, they're next to Samoan food, but I mean, but like if I could die and pasta would be it for me. 100% pasta.
Yes.
And so and so I've always been fascinated about Italy. I love the people, and so I had the opportunity to go. I applied and I was able to get in, and yeah, it was such a thrilling experience. I got to meet such wonderful people there,
Wow.
and yeah, I actually finished top of my class. So I'm what you
Nice.
say, very competitive when it comes to that.
Did you
Yeah,
think
like
did you think you were gonna end up being like from when you were at college in marketing, did you ever think that you were ever gonna get into culinary arts school?
No, that was only when I started working at the cafe
Uh-huh.
and then being exposed to all parts of her business.
Hmm.
And then when she told me to run the catering, I was like, oh yeah, I could totally do this. And then, being a part of that. And then, because the thing is, when you identify that there's a gap or a need on island, like a problem, and I'm a problem solver, okay? Like there's nothing that you cannot fix though, or,
Mhm.
so it was something like it was definitely needed because oftentimes here on island, if you speak to people's love language here, it's usually typically food, you know what I mean? And if it's really good food, they'll come back again and again. And so I just thought that for myself, if I wanted to go to a cafe, I wanted to see that kind of
Mhm.
demonstration when it comes to food. And we don't get a lot of that here. I mean, there's still pancake and German buns for you, but
Yes.
when it comes to like the really handcraft type of, um, you know, baked goods that you can provide for the community, I think it's important that we do just that. And so, yeah, for me, I always like to, if I'm going to go into a different path, I always like to have some sort of schooling, to
Yes.
as support, you know, it was the same thing as when I moved down and I wanted to open my lounge and that didn't happen, a bar lounge. And so I
Mhm.
went to bartending school so that I could learn that and then come here and
Mhm.
be able to, execute it. So yeah, I'm no stranger when it comes to elevating yourself so that you can be a subject matter expert in that field. You know what I mean? And so nobody can kind of question you and be like, okay,
Yes.
wait a minute, yeah. And there's something about learning from other people though, you know what I mean? And that's why I say I'm a student of life. Like I love to learn and grow and just expand my mind. I feel like I intend to be here for a very long time.
Mhm.
My maternal grandfather lived to be 106, and so I
Wow.
mean that's my maternal great grandmother was almost 100. My dad right now, he's 94. He'll be 95 this year. So I know that it's in the genetics, but part of it is, me having to prioritize health and making that a commitment, not just something that you just say, oh, it's not important, but no, it is important. Yeah.
So
Kudos to
speaking of,
you. Oh,
go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead. Go ahead, Lena.
so kudos to you for being very competitive and not only like you said you wanted to learn how to make a croissant. You didn't just YouTube it and stay home. You went to France. Like girl.
Hey, there's nothing wrong
That's
with
like
that. Okay. Like a lot of people
that's
do
like over
that.
no,
You know what
that's
I
like
mean?
top of the line over and
Yeah.
beyond. You better get it.
Actually,
Like,
I go to the Starbucks or the store to grab me my croissant. I'm sorry, I can't cook. Yeah.
yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like it takes a lot to, like you said, to put your all into something that you want to do and to not just say like, oh, I want to do this, but like you went to bartending school, you went to marketing, right? Like, and you went to France. Like, where else would you go to learn how to make a croissant,
Yes.
right? Like, girl. So did you ever get to make the croissant?
Yeah, no. So when I returned back last year, I did a lot of product testing, and a lot of the times you have to kind of. There was a store that actually provided the particular ingredient, flour. Flour is important, especially the elasticity, extendability that's needed to make a really good quality croissant. and the store doesn't carry that flour anymore. And so it's so
Oh.
frustrating when it comes to ingredients, you know. And so, but I was able to product test. I was able to execute it. I had orders. So there is a demand here on this island. People want to see quality, good food.
Yeah.
I want to be able to provide that. The way that I look at success is, uh, you know, making money on things that you love to do, and then being able to make a contribution and elevating humanity. And that's part of this journey, right? Is being able to do all of that. If you can, though, you know, you want to leave an imprint, you know, people won't remember what you did for them, but they'll always remember, you know, how they made you feel, you know what I mean? And that's something that resonates with people for a long time, even if, you know, for years to come. And I truly believe in that.
So June says, that's Julia, innovative, ambition, and intelligence. And I agree because that's amazing. People talk
I love
about
you, June.
things
Thank you.
and then they do it, not all the way, but to be able to do that, girl, hats off.
Yes.
Oh, I appreciate that. I appreciate. Thank you, June. Yeah, it's you know, I'm in the long game. You know what I mean? Like, I don't want to be, you know, like a short fuse where after a couple of years, oh, it didn't pan out. Oh, you know, no, I've been able to practice patience, long suffering. So I'm in this for the long haul, and you know, I love it when you're able to provide that kind of top tier service to folks here, because you know sometimes they don't know what they like until you actually present it to them in a
Mhm.
way where it's inviting and it's, you know, it's different, and then it's almost like their curiosity takes over them and they want to try it even further.
But
um,
see, I
and that
love
was
that
one
you
of the
do that because as we know, people back home, not everyone can travel or just leave, right? So the fact that you're willing to bring that experience to them that they wouldn't otherwise get, like that's amazing, right?
Mhm.
Because like we know people back home is very expensive and it's a very different way of life, right? So the only way that's a lot of people get to experience the world is through people that come back from their journeys and share that.
Mhm.
So like living
absolutely
vicariously, right?
100%.
Vicariously through those people, right?
Mhm.
We have a question.
Absolutely.
Fano is asking, do you have a recipe for risotto or pasta puttanesca? Am I saying that wrong? If you could drop some
Risotto,
recipes.
yes. So two kinds of cheeses, something that's bitter, and then you can use regular Calrose rice. You know, it does the
Really?
same.
Oh,
Yeah, you
okay.
got to continue
Wow.
to stir it. Butter helps. Something that has like a really high fat
Wow.
content on it. Um, and then two kinds of cheeses, whatever you like. Some people like Gouda. Some people like, you know, what is that? Puree. I can't pronounce it though. But yeah, and then a little bit of parm and goes a long way. But yeah, I love risotto too.
Wait. Funnel, are you going to even cook that? Are you going to be in the Vegas trip? If it's so, then you're going to cook that for us.
Oh, right, right.
So,
But I should mention that the culinary school was specific on Italian pastry. Sorry, so it was more so sweet
Oh,
treats. Yeah, so everything from like gelato to making chocolate. I want to bring that
ooh,
here in Samoa.
yes.
You know, their croissant version is called cornetti. They add a little bit of aromatic flavors in there as well, and then. You know how you would taste you know, ice cream on a stick, you know, like Magnum.
Yes.
So yeah, there's
Sorry.
a cream base and a fruit base. Yes, yes,
Yes.
yes, yes. So all of that, yeah. So I do have some goals that aligns up with when it comes to the financial career pursuits, and I don't want to mention it just yet though. But of it is building out my commercial kitchen so that I can be able to scale up, and that's what's happening right now. Yeah, I just got a fridge for Valentine's, so I'm really happy
There you
about
go.
that.
oh.
So, speaking of
A brand new
Valentine's,
fridge. Oh, wow.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm not into flowers, but when my husband got a fridge, I was so happy because I
So,
need it for my baking.
Speaking of family, right, and Valentine's, I appreciate you taking that time to talk to us last night during our test run. Family is a huge part of who we are, right? And how has building a blended family changed your perspective on love and relationship?
Oh, immensely. I was one of those people that really hated Valentine's Day when it would come around. And this is post divorce. So I was, in the dating scene for a little bit. I mean, I think it was like a good 6, 7 years during that time frame. And so you almost have like, what doesn't challenge you won't change you. And so a lot of the times of finding that love in your life, and for me, my first love is me. And then of course everybody else, right? And so um when you have that foundation, it works wonders, especially when your partner is in line with what it is and how you parent. um I Gentle parenting is something that is like very, apparent, especially. But I truly believe in just being honest and candid with our kids.
Yeah.
And a lot of the times they know exactly who they are. They just need that support system to be able to achieve it. And that's why I'm so proud of my children, my adult children, that is. I have 6 in total. Um, my 4 adult children that are doing their thing in this real world and just learning, adulting basically.
Mhm.
And I'm, being able to be a part of their upbringing, um, to be a part of those conversations of when they were feeling a bit uncertain or, sad, that, you know, not necessarily inserting yourself, but being available emotionally for them to just kind of offload if they needed to. I think it really helps in creating a really healthy uh, blended family,
Mhm.
especially in this day and time, because this generation is so different. Generation Z, they're very emo. one of one of their lingo words.
Yes.
Yeah, and so you really have to have that maturity to empathize with what they're going through, validate their feelings. Us as Gen X, we didn't get a lot of that, from our own parents, and so just doing things a little bit different
Yes.
helps. Being able to build that trust with your kids so that if you say that you're going to do something, you got to follow through, because
Mhm.
they're going to call you out on that.
Yes.
And and you don't want to do that to them. My 7-year-old son, so he's number 5 of the
Mhm.
bunch, he actually wanted to go to Alaska for 2nd grade. And that was a decision that we made as a family. At first, I thought that he was a little bit, maybe he's just saying this just because he wants to just go on an airplane. But no, he loves like the school. He loves the joy and the excitement that he gets from being with all his cousins. So Linfield's side of the family on his dad's side mostly live in Anchorage and some in Cali. And so he's able to experience that as part of his childhood. And I think it's really rewarding for them as kids, especially when they get to do it at a very early age. It helps shape them as they get older, though. You know what I mean?
Wow.
So I think it's important that we all kind of we can learn a lot from our kids.
Mhm.
You know.
I agree.
Um, AT says Julia definitely has a marathoner mindset. Um,
Sorry,
June says,
it's like
shout out to
all
my
over the place.
June says, shout out to my brother-in-law Linfield. He makes a yummy umu. She married him for his palusami.
Oh, there you go.
Among other things. But yes, yeah.
Julia,
Yeah.
if you could give your 17-year-old Julia some advice, what would that be?
Um, so there was also this superpower within us, and it's something that I wish I had the courage to be able to do more so at that time because I was living for my parents. I didn't want to upset them, but I was that way all the way up until those last crucial years within before 20s, and that is authenticity. Um, be true to yourself, Julia. Be true to the type of person that you've always been, curious, interested. You always had a sense of self with the kind of person that you wanted to be and how you wanted to grow and show up for the world and for others. And so trust in your intuition, trust in yourself, and everything is going to be okay. Yeah, let God do the rest.
So, family, love, and resilience. Julia, you are a living example of all three. Before we close out, as we are getting close to the end, I have one last question for you before I hand it over to Lena to give her question if she chooses to. If you could leave behind one message for future generations of your family, what would that be?
Um, develop your communication skills, whether it's in English or Samoan, because when you open your mouth, people will listen. And there's nothing more powerful than your words, not your fists. So, um, I would also add to that in terms of everything that I've said before, and I'll just kind of bullet point it at this point in time. Trust in your intuition, your guts. Develop your communication skills. Surround yourself with quality people, and authenticity is your superpower. Hold on to that. Even if you're not a faith person just yet, know that you are a daughter, a son to a loving heavenly parents, and you were born to earthly good parents that only want the best for you. And just remember who you are, your heritage, um, all of your ancestors. That's the cool thing about being Samoan, you know? Um, it's important to always remember that at the end of the day.
Thank you so much,
Awesome.
Julia, Lena.
Thank you so much. So before I go upon my spiel, June says, shout out to your children, Julia. Their successes still on his mission. Shy in Utah, Grady playing college football, and Nell college graduate. So
Oh,
congratulations to them.
yes. Thank you, June. My cheerleader.
So I wanted to thank you for sharing your story and being here with
Oh,
us
thank you,
tonight.
ladies.
A
I
couple
appreciate
points
it.
that you made, gives us perspective and encourages us in certain ways, right? So the main three things I took from it was, the first thing was that we are going to be here on this earth for as long as God wills us to be. So while you're here, do the best that you can, in what you're doing, because your time here, make it count, right? And
Absolutely.
then the next thing is the authenticity. Like, that is an amazing superpower, because in the day and age that we're at now, where social media and where there's so much noise and chatter, people tend to lose themselves in it, and I'm sure it's not
So
purposely,
true.
but people will put on the facade and go along with it to see, sometimes to be accepted or other things.
Yeah,
So that is a very great reminder to everyone listening, to just be authentic to yourself, right? And that way
so
you can
true.
live, you know um in how you need to be, right?
Right.
And then last but
Absolutely.
not least, you just hit it all out of the ballpark, with us, and not only being women and culturally sensitive and in this world, is learn to use your words, learn to appreciate that the message you have will be heard, but you have to get it out in that way, you know. So thank you so much, Baftaitile Lava. I really enjoyed this sharing session.
Yay!
Yay.
Thank you so much, Lena. I
Yeah.
appreciate all of that. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, before we
Yes,
close,
heart.
Before we close, for all of those of you who decided to join us for Valentine's and who didn't have a Valentine's yesterday, we hope we satisfy your soul and your heart and mind with these wonderful, powerful stories, laughter, memories, and deep emotions that Julia has taken us to. Um, Thank you so much, Julia, for being a part of our podcast. We love you so much. And thank you for
Oh, love
all of
you
you
too,
out
guys.
there.
Thank you.
I feel like we haven't covered everything we wanted to. And so
It's
we
okay.
hope
It's okay.
we hope in the future to have you back again for a part two. Again, thank you so much,
Yeah, of
Julia.
course.
You
Thank you
guys have
so
a good
much. I
night.
appreciate it.
Thank you,
I'll be
everyone. Love
waiting
you
for the
guys. Bye bye.
merch.
Yes,
Yes.
yes.
Have
Pop,
a blessed
pop.
night.
Love you guys. Have a good night
Love
and
you.
God
Bye.
bless
Thank you
and
so
to God
much.
be
Have a
the
good
glory.
evening. Happy
Good night.
weekend.
You too.
Yes. Bye,
Bye.
Lena.
Bye.
Bye, Arlene. Bye,
Bye.
Picasso.